Two nations, no shared border, no direct colonial history connecting them. And yet today, Iran and Israel are locked in one of the most dangerous conflicts in the world. For decades, their war was fought in the shadows through proxy militias, assassinations, cyber attacks, and covert operations stretching across the Middle East. Analysts warned for years that a direct confrontation was coming. What almost nobody predicted was how quickly it would arrive. And how this conflict began. You have to go back more than a century to the collapse of an empire, the birth of a nation, and a revolution that changed the Middle East forever. This is the full story of the Iran-Israel conflict and why the region may never be the same again. At the start of the 20th century, the Middle East looked nothing like it does today. Most of the region was controlled by a single state. The Ottoman Empire for over 600 years, the Ottomans ruled vast territories stretching from North Africa to Eastern Europe. Cities like Jerusalem, Damascus, Baghdad, and Beirut all existed under one imperial authority. But by the early 1900s, the empire was falling apart. Corruption had weakened the government. Military defeats drained its strength. Nationalist movements were rising inside its borders. European powers were already preparing for what would happen next. Britain and France, in particular, were waiting for the opportunity to divide the empire's territory between them. That opportunity arrived in 1914. With the outbreak of World War I, the Ottomans made a critical decision. They joined the war on the side of Germany. It was a catastrophic mistake. When Germany lost in 1918, the Ottoman Empire collapsed entirely, and the Middle East was suddenly up for grabs. After the war, Britain and France stepped in through agreements and mandates approved by the League of Nations. They divided large parts of the Middle East between themselves. New borders were drawn across the region, often by European officials who had never even visited the territories. They were dividing ethnic groups, religious communities, and tribal territories were split apart by lines drawn on maps in London, and Paris, one of those territories, was mandatory Palestine. Controlled by Britain. It sat along the eastern Mediterranean coast. At the time, the population was mostly Arab Muslim, with a significant Arab Christian minority and a smaller Jewish population that was beginning to grow. And this small strip of land would soon become one of the most contested places on Earth. For centuries, Jewish communities across Europe had faced persecution, violent pogroms in the Russian Empire. Discrimination across much of Europe. By the late 19th century, a new political movement had begun to emerge. It was called Zionism. Zionism argued that Jewish people needed a homeland of their own, a place where they could live safely and govern themselves. Many Zionist leaders believed that homeland should be Palestine, the ancient historical homeland of the Jewish people. At the same time, Britain made a promise that would shape the future of the region. In 1917, it issued the Balfour Declaration, expressing support for the creation of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. But Britain had already promised Arab leaders independence if they helped fight the Ottomans. These promises contradicted each other, and they planted the seeds of future conflict. During the 1920s and 1930s, Jewish immigration to Palestine increased significantly. This was partly driven by growing anti-Semitism in Europe, especially after Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany. Arab Palestinians watched these demographic changes with increasing concern to them. It seemed like their homeland was being transformed without their consent. Tensions between Jewish and Arab communities began escalating into violence. Britain struggled to maintain control. Then history took another devastating turn. During World War I, Nazi Germany carried out the Holocaust. 6 million Jewish people were murdered across Europe. The scale of the genocide horrified the world. International support for a Jewish homeland grew dramatically. After the war, Britain, exhausted and unable to manage the conflict in Palestine, handed the issue to the United Nations. In 1947, the UN proposed a plan to divide Palestine into two states, one Jewish. One Arab. Jewish leaders accepted the plan. Leaders rejected it. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was declared. Within hours, the United States recognized the new country. The Soviet Union followed. The reaction across the Arab world was immediate. The next day, armies from Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon invaded.